When you're 7 years old, revenge doesn't come in grand gestures. It comes in whispers, in secret little victories that only you know about. My dad made me cry that day. Again. But before the night was over, I found a way to make him feel even a fraction of the helplessness he made me live with. Pause for emphasis. It was petty, it was small, but for one glorious night, I felt powerful. If you've ever been hurt by someone who thought they could get away with it, hit that like button, because this story proves that even the smallest act of defiance can mean everything when you spend your whole life being silenced. Subscribe if you believe justice doesn't always need to be loud to be satisfying. Set up growing up afraid. When you're a kid, your world is small. Your house, your toys, your parents, they're everything. But when one of those people is cruel, that tiny world becomes a cage. My dad wasn't great. He wasn't the kind of bad you can laugh off or roll your eyes at. He was the kind of bad that made you shrink when you heard his footsteps. There was yelling, there was hitting, but honestly, it was the words that stuck. He had this way of making you feel worthless. Like every mistake, every tear, was proof you didn't deserve love. After the divorce, it got worse. Maybe he felt like he'd lost control, and I was the only person left he could still dominate. I was 7, still small enough to think monsters only lived under the bed. But that day, my monster lived in a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like cigarettes and cheap aftershave. He was in one of his moods. Everything I did was wrong. My tone, my face, my breathing. He snapped at me for spilling juice, for sitting wrong, for existing too loudly. And eventually, I started to cry. That was the worst thing I could do, because to him, tears were weakness, and weakness was something to be punished. I remember him leaning down, voice sharp as glass, saying something like, "Oh, stop crying. You're so dramatic. No wonder your mom left." That sentence hit like a slap. I felt my stomach twist, that awful, heavy ache that only kids understand, when you love someone who keeps hurting you. So I ran to the bathroom, locked the door, and I cried, quietly the way I'd learned to, the spark of rebellion. The mirror was foggy from the shower earlier, and I could see my own red, puffy face reflected back. I looked small, powerless, and then my eyes landed on something sitting on the counter. His glasses, perfectly polished, folded neatly. He couldn't see a thing without them. Something in me, some tiny ember of defiance, flickered to life. I wiped my face, sniffled, and whispered to myself, "You can't yell at me if you can't see me." It was stupid. It was childish. But in that moment, it felt right. I picked up the glasses carefully, like I was handling something sacred, and tiptoed to his bedroom. My heart was pounding, that loud, thumping in your ears kind of fear. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the muffled sound of the TV in the next room. I crept to the closet, pushed past a few hanging shirts, and buried the glasses deep under a pile of old clothes in the back corner. Then I stood there for a second, adrenaline buzzing through my tiny hands. And for the first time that day, I smiled. Her place felt lighter. The air didn't hurt to breathe. I had dinner, watched TV, pretended everything was normal. But inside, I carried that secret victory, my own private justice. Later that evening, the phone rang. It was my dad. I remember my mom's voice tightening when she said, "It's your father. He wants to talk to you." I took the phone, already dreading it. His voice was different, not angry, not sharp, more frustrated. "Hey, you didn't see my glasses, did you? I took my contacts out, and I can't find them anywhere." I paused. My heart leapt. He was blind, literally, and for one small moment, I held all the power. "No," I said calmly. "I didn't see them." We hung up, and as soon as the phone hit the cradle, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I giggled, that bubbling, uncontrollable kind of laughter that only a kid can have when they finally get one over on an adult who's always winning. She raised an honest kid, maybe too honest. She turned to me, eyebrow raised. "What's so funny?" I froze, tried to cover it up. Didn't work. Within seconds, she had it figured out. And of course, she made me call him back. I can still hear her voice. "Tell them where they are." The words felt like defeat. But even as I held the phone again, explaining that they were buried under some clothes in his closet, I couldn't help but feel proud. For those few hours, I had flipped the script. For once, I wasn't a scared little kid he controlled. He needed me. 6. Reflection, power in small acts. Now, looking back as an adult, I know it sounds petty. It was. But when you grow up with someone who takes every ounce of control from you, even a momentary rebellion can feel monumental. That day wasn't about hiding glasses. It was about taking back something, even if it was just dignity. I wasn't strong enough to stand up to him, but I was smart enough to hit where it hurt. His convenience, his comfort, his control. And you know what? For 7-year-old me, that was enough. For a few shining hours, my dad, the man who always had to be in charge, stumbled around his apartment, helplessly searching for something that only I knew the location of. The irony still makes me smile. He made me feel powerless every day. And that day, I made him feel exactly the same. I used to feel guilty for that. But now I think maybe that was my first lesson in standing up for myself. Sometimes, even the tiniest spark of rebellion can remind you that you still have a voice, and it deserves to be heard. If this story hit home for you, drop a red heart in the comments for every kid who found small ways to survive big pain. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because no act of revenge is too small when it helps you reclaim your power. This is our /pro revenge, where even childhood justice deserves its moment.